If my makeup is running down my face, it's because I poked myself in the eye. So, today I'm here to do the mid-year freakout tag. I've seen so many people do this tag lately and it just looks fun. I've loved all these videos. I don't know who originally created the tag, unfortunately, but if somebody knows, definitely tell me and I can link it down below. The first question is, what is your favorite book that you've read so far this year? I've had a hard time because I actually feel like I had so few options for this. But I ended up on Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This book is about a mystery that takes place at Ellingham Academy, where the lead character, Stevie Bell, decides to go to school. Ellingham Academy has some unsolved mysteries from way back in the day, where the headmaster of the school, his wife was found murdered and his daughter disappeared. Stevie Bell has decided that she wants to solve that mystery. This book was just so quirky and so fun and very tightly plotted. I loved all the characters. It was just a really good, fun time, especially because I don't expect much from YA mysteries. They've let me down a lot. But this one was just so good while also being quirky and relatable. The second question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far this year? I've only read a handful of sequels so far, not a ton, but by far my favorite was The Rose by Tiffany Reisz. Now I will say that this is more of a sequel in essence than in actuality. It does take place after and it does have something to do with the characters from the first one, but it's not really a direct sequel. The first book is called The Red. It is a smut book, as well as this one, obviously. The first book revolves around different sexual fantasies involving paintings, whereas the second book revolves around different sexual fantasies involving Greek mythology. This second one was a lot different from the first one. The first one was just purely sex, just sex scene after sex scene. The second one had a lot more to do with romance and love, but I just loved the two main characters so much. In the first book, there just wasn't a lot of character development, whereas in the second one, I found the characters really relatable and really likable. It's just such a fun series, and I can't wait for more books from it. The third question is new book release that you want to read but haven't yet. And my answer for this is Recursion by Blake Crouch. I really loved I really loved Dark Matter way more than I was expecting it to. I'm not a sci-fi girl, so I didn't go in with high expectations, but I just loved it. I loved how personal it was for a sci-fi. And Recursion seems to have a lot of the same themes in it, where it's about identity and kind of an alternate reality, sort of. So I'm so excited to read this. It just came out. I almost picked it up at Chapters the other day, and I kind of wish I did, but I'm really cheap. I like to wait until there's a paperback or wait till it's on sale or something, but I just can't wait to read this. The next question is most anticipated release from the second half of the year. I'm not someone who really looks ahead at what's coming out. I usually pay more attention to books that are backlisted or have just come out as they're releasing. So when I looked at my Goodreads list, I only had 4 books that were unreleased. But the one by far that I'm most looking forward to is Feast of Sparks by Sierra Simone. It's the second book in the Thornchapel series. I read A Lesson in Thorns maybe 2 months ago, and I totally loved it. I wasn't expecting to. It took me a bit to get into it because it's kind of a slow start, but oh damn, it was so intoxicating. It's a smut book about these 6 friends who all kind of get pulled by the universe, sort of, to this one place from their childhood, and there's mystery involved, and there's just all this sexual tension and polyamorous feelings, and just, I'm into it. It was great, and I can't wait for the second one. The next question is biggest disappointment from the year, and by far that is The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. I was so looking forward to this. This sounded so up my alley. Basically, the plot is about a final girl who wants to be the final girl. Like, she wants to be the top dog, the one who gets rid of all the other final girls, and I was like, that sounds freaking fantastic. I love horror movies, I love slasher movies, and this sounded right up my alley, but it sucked. It was just not good. I actually listened to it on audiobook because it is so hard to read. I did not realize that it is written so obnoxiously. It's written like you're watching a movie, but it's not written like a script. It's just really weird, and it was so hard to read. And once I finally did listen to it on audiobook, it got easier, but it still just wasn't worth it, and the premise, like, isn't there. The premise that they list here is not in this book, so it was a huge disappointment, and I'm so let down, but I'm gonna keep trying to find more slasher horror books because in theory I really like them. Biggest surprise of the year so far. So I'm someone who usually does kind of a lot of research before I read a book. I read reviews, I, go in and read the synopsises. Like, I'm not usually someone who just, like, picks up a book and reads it. But there was one night where I had started a couple different smut books and none of them were doing it for me. I just wasn't into any of them. So then I just, like, Googled, I don't even remember what I Googled. I think I Googled consensual non-consent or something like that because that's what I'm into. And I ended up finding this book and it was like $3, so I was like, cool. I bought it in Kindle, read it that night, and it has been one of my favorite smut books that I've ever read. And that is Willing Victim by Kara McKenna. It's about these two people who meet by chance and they have kind of an immediate connection, but he likes very forceful sex and she isn't used to that, and he kind of like warns her off of it. But anyways, they eventually get together, and there was just something about their easy chemistry and him in general. Like, he's just such a different type of love interest. I fell in love with him so hard. It's such a realistic portrayal of how relationships work and how sexual relationships work, and I loved it. I have such a huge place in my heart for that book. And it was only a novella too, which I don't usually read novellas, so it was fantastic. Favorite new author. I had a hard time coming up with this because, like, I'm not someone who really reads one book and then I'm like, oh yes, I love this author. But I decided to go with Riley Sager. I've only read The Final Girls, and I didn't love it. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't, like, friggin' fantastic or perfect or anything. I actually hate the ending, kind of. But I looked at the synopsis for The Last Time I Lied, and it also seems really up my alley, and then I've looked at the synopsis for Lock Every Door, and it also sounds good. So even if I don't, like, love their work, I just feel like he writes stuff that is so of interest to me that I feel like no matter what, I'm gonna give his work a shot. And there was enough going in his debut work that I feel like I'm really going to enjoy it as he grows, I guess. So he's not, like, my favorite new author, but he's definitely the author that, like, I'm looking out for right now. Newest fictional crush is definitely Flynn from Willing Victim. He's just perfect. Like, he's not at all the type of person that I think of when I think of, like, who I go for, because I usually very much like the bad boy, not in real life. In real life, fuck that. But in books, I very much like the bad boys who are, like, broody and kind of dicks, and the type of boy you would never put up with in real life, but because I love dark romances. But Flynn is, like, this meathead boxer type who he's got this, like, soft heart, but he's kind of simple. Like, he likes what he likes, and he's okay with it, and he's not complicated. He's just happy in life. And I don't know, it's hard to explain, but he's just so perfect, and I love him. And I'm not usually someone who even gets fictional crushes, but, like, my heart. Or, like I said, when I reviewed the book, I pictured Channing Tatum for this role, who I've never even had a crush on, but, like, he fits the role perfectly. Newest fave character. I have two for this. The first one is Tate from Bully by Penelope Douglas. She's the main character, and she's kind of fantastic. Because I read so many dark romances, I'm kind of used to the same type of main character where they're kind of pushovers and they let the guy get away with anything. Where she is not like that at all. She is kind of nuts. She's just as bad as like most of the guy characters that I read in these books, but I love that. Like in real life I'd be like, okay, you crazy, calm your shit, but in the book it's kind of fantastic. Like she's constantly doing property damage and like having massive girl hate and like pulling hair and whatever, but she's fun and she doesn't put up with any shit. The other character is Digby from Trouble Is a Friend of Mine by Stephanie Tromley. I just read this and I love Digby so much. He's just sarcastic and witty and so smart and funny and just, he's a great human being. I mean, he can be kind of a dick sometimes because he's very much like built in the vein of like Sherlock Holmes or Veronica Mars, where like he's not the most like sensitive, attuned person to other people's feelings. He's always getting into trouble and getting all his friends into trouble, but I don't know, you just can't help but love him when you read this book. I mean, you probably could, but I couldn't. The next prompt is book that made you cry. I'm not one who cries at books pretty much ever, but there was one so far this year that has made me cry a little bit, and that was Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty. I had a hard time with this book, just because the subject matter, it deals with domestic violence, and I just like, and I've had sort of one instance with that, and it brought up some feelings, and yeah, it made me cry. And the next prompt is a book that made you happy, which is Trouble Is a Friend of Mine by Stephanie Tromley. I literally laughed and smiled throughout this whole book. It was just so good. I just read this and literally like every page had me laughing. This is kind of a detective story about two kids in high school, the main character who is new to school, and this guy, Digby, who drags her into this mystery in the town involving a missing girl. Just the shenanigans in this are great. I don't even know what else to say. There's a scene involving a bear costume that I was literally crying laughing in. So good. Most beautiful cover you've bought this year. I have said this one so many times recently where I'm just like, look at this beautiful cover, but it really is just the only beautiful cover I bought this year because I don't really buy off covers anymore. And that is The Wanderers by Meg Howry. This is a book about a group of people who go on a simulated Mars mission. I'm supposed to be reading it this month. We'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, I mean, look how beautiful this cover is. You see the little like face and the helmet and like these people and the smoke, and look at those beautiful colors. It's just, it's pretty. And the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I think the two books that I really feel like I have to read by the end of this year are The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager, because like I said, I just feel like I might love it, and hopefully it's an improvement from The Final Girls. And then Baby Teeth by Zoe Stage, which I have it somewhere. Oh, is this it? Yeah. Because I have said every month for like 4 months now that I'm gonna read this and I still haven't, so I need to just get it done. This is a thriller about kind of like the Omen situation where there's like a bad seed kid and the mom feels like she's out to get her, but the dad just like doesn't notice. So that sounds like a fun premise and I'm into it, so yeah. So those are all my answers to this tag. I'm pretty happy with how this reading year has gone so far. When I started BookTube, I mainly just wanted it to make me read more because I used to love reading like in high school and stuff, but then in college I just kind of like dropped out of reading and I found it so hard to get back into. Like I read like 8 or 10 books last year, I think, whereas now I've read 49 this year so far, and that's just crazy to me. Like I set my Goodreads goal at 52 for the year and I'm almost there and it's only halfway through the year. So I'm so happy about that. I'm so happy that like this all worked out. It made me actually read more, and yeah. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you'll stick around for the next one. Bye.